Meanwhile in Marley, the Titan Chemistry Research Society is formed. This group of scientists and experts analyze and study the Titans they acquired from Eldia at the end of the war, and in a few decades come to discover, or at least come close to figuring out how the Titan shifter powers actually work and where the actual Titan body is generated from once the shifter activates their powers. Like I already said, I'm saving the Titan shifter talk for another time. Around this time period, a new organization in Marley is found. Its name is the Eldia Restorationists, whose purpose is to take down the Marley government from the shadows and restore Eldia to its glory. Among the members of this organization is the father of a boy by the name of Eren Kruger. Unfortunately, Eren's family is discovered at a young age and burned alive, with him witnessing everything from behind a closet door. He manages to escape with the help of his father's friends, who manage to remain undetected, and swears to take revenge on the Marley. Sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? Eventually, Eren becomes a Marley soldier himself, secretly an Eldian spy and a very important figure for the Restorationists, to whom he will later become known as the Owl. After the walls on Paradia are created, the military and faction system comes to be. Also, the events of the Before the Fall manga take place. Like I already said, I'm not talking about this in detail, but the overall important stuff that happens includes the creation of the 3D maneuver gear and the killing of the first Titan. Also, one more important thing. A girl in Marley by the name of Ymir is exiled to Paradi Island for unknown reasons and turned into a mindless Titan. Jumping ahead a couple of decades, we come to what started it all. An Eldian family living in the Liberio interment zone by the name of Jaeger. A young member of the family, Grisha Jaeger, and his sister Faye, one day decide to go outside of the interment zone to watch one of the Marley blimps take off. However, they are discovered by two Marley soldiers, one of which is Eren Kruger, the spy of the Eldian Restorationists, and his acquaintance Gras. Due to not having the permission to leave and taking the punishment for his sister, Grisha is beaten by Kruger, who is obviously playing an act, while Gras takes Faye back to the Liberio interment zone. Except that's not quite what happens. Gras, perfectly displaying Marley's treatment towards Eldians, feeds Faye to his son's dogs, and her body is discovered in the river the next day. Wow. Grisha is later told the history of the Eldian people, basically almost everything I just explained to you guys, except twisted in Marley's favor to damage Ymir for its reputation. Jumping ahead a couple of years, Eren Kruger inherits one of the 9 Titans, which is supposedly the other remaining Titan on Eldia's side that was not stolen by Marley at the end of the Great Titan War. This Titan's name was the Attack Titan. A few years later, Grisha becomes a doctor and takes over his father's clinic. One day he is visited by a curious fellow by the name of Grice, who has been sent by the Owl. Grice reveals that he is a part of the Eldia Restorationists and also reveals the truth to Grisha about what happened to his sister and how she was murdered by Marley just because she was of Eldian blood. Grisha, now bound on revenge, joins the Eldia Restorationists and quote-unquote deciphers an ancient book of Eldian history, which tells how Ymir Fritz was a goddess who brought wealth to mankind and that the history they were taught in Marley was fake. Yeah, the thing is, like I already said, the whole thing about Ymir Fritz acting good and helping people is probably not entirely true either. I mean, the Owl says it himself. In order to restore the glory of Eldia and once again destroy Marley, the Eldia Restorationists set up their plans to retrieve the founding Titan from the royal family on Paradi Island. One night, the Owl sends a woman named Dina Fritz to the Restorationists, a descendant of the Fritz branch family, which remained on the continent and did not join King Fritz, now King Rice, on his affairs to move the capital of Eldia to Paradi Island. Eventually, Grisha and Dina's relationship grows stronger and they marry a year later, having a child by the name of Zeke. At this point, the true conflict begins. The Marley government, already possessing the 7 Titans for the past 80 years, starts making quick advancements in the development of new military technology, as well as the other countries in the world, who are aiming to be the world force. However, because of this advancement, the Titan powers start to become overshadowed by the military power, and Marley believes that these powers alone won't be enough for them to maintain their position in the world. This is why the Marley government takes an interest in the island of Paradi, where there are supposedly massive amounts of natural resources which are waiting to be discovered. These resources, for example fossil fuels, would be required if Marley wanted to, keep its military power. This is why the country focuses on taking over the island and wiping out the Eldians living there. However, one problem stands in their way: the Rice family. Already being aware of the king's warning to release the Titans inside the walls, the Marley government creates what we the fandom like to call Warrior Shifter Program. Marley then begins selecting these warriors. They would be healthy children from the Eldian ghettos from the ages of 5 and 7 who would be quote-unquote compatible with the 7 Titan shifter powers under Marley's control. Essentially, it becomes an all-out race between the Eldia Restorationists and the Marley government to travel to Paradi and take the founding Titan from the royal family, which, to Marley, becomes known as the Coordinate. With this information at hand, the Eldia Restorationists are forced to take drastic measures. Grisha comes up with the plan to make Zeke, now 7 years old, the future king of Eldia, who would secretly disguise himself as a Marley warrior and steal the founding Titan from the Rice family. However, in the end, Grisha and Dina only saw Zeke as two of their war, and eventually this led to Zeke betraying them, as well as the rest of the Eldia Restorationists to the Marley government. After being imprisoned on a Marleyan steamboat, Grisha undergoes torture, which includes having his fingers cut off and being castrated in order to reveal the identity of the owl. However, he fails to deliver any information as neither he nor the other restorationists know who the owl actually is. Conveniently, Eren Kruger, the owl himself, is on the boat as well, along with Tina and the other restorationists. After the steamboat arrives on the coastline of Paradi, Grisha and the others are taken to the top of the wall. There, Grisha bears witness to his comrades being transformed into Titans, with the exception of Grice, who is thrown down in order to lure the Titans away. Shortly after, Dina is taken to the top of the wall as well. Before Grisha can tell the others that she is of royal blood, he is shut up by Kruger in order to prevent the information from going to Marley. This was also in order to prevent Dina from becoming a breeding tool for the Marley government, since she is in fact of royal blood. Unable to do anything, Dina is injected and kicked off the wall, transforming into a Titan with a distinctive grin on its face, which has been given the term Smiling Titan by the fans. The one injecting Dina was Gras, Kruger's comrade and the one who killed Grisha's sister when they were kids. He reveals the truth to Grisha and explains how Marley feels about Eldians, which just so happens to already be known to pretty much everyone. The Eldia Restorationists transformed into Titans would become the mindless Titans that invaded the Tross district in the present time. Gras decides to leave the the Peering Titan to eat Grisha instead of having Grisha injected for the sake of entertainment. But before he can throw Grisha down, Kruger steps in and pushes Gras off the wall. Nice. After he falls down, he is eaten alive by the Peering Titan. Then, Eren Kruger reveals his identity to Grisha and transforms into the Attack Titan, completely obliterating the remaining Marley force on the shore, crushing their boats, killing the soldiers, and removing all traces of them ever being on the island in the first place. After Kruger exits his Titan form, he greets Grisha and the two have a talk regarding pretty much everything I just explained. Kruger reveals his identity, his backstory, the origins of the Eldia Restorationists, the reason why he let Dina become a mindless Titan to save her a lifetime of rape from Marley, as well as the results of the Marley scientists' research on the Titans and how the Titan shifter power actually works. His health also appears to get worse due to him having inherited the Attack Titan 13 years earlier. Kruger then reveals to Grisha that he would pass it on to him and have him carry out the mission of the Eldia Restorationists. The reason he chose him wasn't necessarily his anger towards Marley for what they did to Faye, but instead the fact that he had always been seeking freedom, just like when he and Faye decided to go outside of the wall on that day. Grisha, although being initially broken and convinced he has committed nothing but sins, like letting the Restorationists be captured and being a terrible father to Zeke, realizes the meaning in Kruger's words and comes to accept his mission. Kruger then gives him a family picture that Grisha took with Dina and Zeke, and reveals to him the name of the Titan that he would become. This hasn't been actually shown, but what happens next is Kruger injects Grisha and turns him into a Titan, then allows himself to get eaten. This changes Grisha back into a human, restoring his lost body parts, and makes him the next Attack Titan. After a certain period of time, in the same year, Grisha reaches the outskirts of the third wall, Wall Maria, more specifically on the southern district, Shiganshina. As he wanders around, seemingly having fought off the Titans on his way to the walls, he stumbles upon Survey Corps soldier Keith Chavez, in his younger days that is. Here, Grisha supposedly has amnesia when this happens, which is probably a result of the Titan transformation. However, everything which I have just explained is what we know because of Grisha, so at one point or another he must have regained his memory. After Grisha is taken in, he is introduced to the walled world by Shadis. Grisha acknowledges the Survey Corps as special people and the pride of humanity, and him and Shadis eventually become friends. Shortly after, Grisha meets Carla while at a dinner with Shadis. The two's relationship then begins to grow over time. After a few years, Grisha has become a doctor in Shiganshina. At this time, a massive epidemic strikes the district with numerous people going down with the sickness, including Carla and her family. However, Grisha, with his advanced knowledge of medicine which exceeds that of the Walled Kingdom, he managed to develop a cure and save everyone from the disease with the help of Shadis spreading it. After this time period, the 11th commander of the Survey Corps is killed during an operation outside of the walls, and Keith Shadis becomes the new commander. Grisha marries Carla and they have a baby boy, Eren Yeager, who Grisha named after Eren Kruger, the owl. Grisha continues working as a doctor. However, during this time he writes 3 books, or journals, containing all of his knowledge and all of the history before the walls, as well as everything I just explained. He hides these books in his desk in the basement of his house and doesn't allow anyone inside. He also treats them to prevent moisture and pests and always has the key for the desk with him. Obviously, he keeps this information away to avoid being discovered by the military police as well as the royal government, which he has secretly been investigating in order to make way for the plan to take a Falling Titan whenever that time may come.